Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we explore fascinating curiosities and deep lore from the Lord of the Rings. If you enjoy documentary-style analysis about Middle-earth, make sure to like this video and subscribe. The channel is still very small, and your support truly helps it grow. Today's video sets the stage for a dramatic what-if scenario. What might have happened if Gandalf himself had taken the One Ring? Before we dive into the full breakdown, this introduction will ease us into the central idea: a powerful being faced with an impossible temptation and a Middle-earth forever changed by a single choice. So get comfortable, leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's begin our journey into this alternate history of Middle-earth. Gandalf's story in this alternate tale begins in Bag End, where his long-growing suspicion about Bilbo's ring finally sharpens into certainty. After Bilbo departs, Gandalf warns Frodo not to use the mysterious object, believing it may be one of the Rings of Power. While Aragorn hunts for Gollum, Gandalf travels to Minas Tirith, searching through ancient records until he discovers the Scroll of Isildur. The pieces fall into place, and a troubling realization forms. Frodo's ring is far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. On his journey back toward the Shire, Gandalf learns from the elves of Lorien that Aragorn has captured Gollum. He heads to Mirkwood, where he questions the miserable creature and witnesses firsthand the devastating effects the ring has had on one who was once a hobbit. Reflecting on Gollum's corruption and on the subtle changes long seen in Bilbo, Gandalf grows certain Frodo carries the One Ring. He rides with urgency and reaches the Shire on April 12, 3018. Here the true divergence begins. When Frodo, frightened by the revelation, offers him the ring, Gandalf hesitates. In the original tale he refuses, fearing he would become a tyrant like Sauron. Yet in this version, his compassion for hobbits and his desire to shield the Shire override his caution. He accepts the One Ring, intending only to protect and to do good. Gandalf chooses to head for Rivendell, leaving not in September as Frodo once did, but on May 1st. With the Nazgul still dormant in Minas Morgul and Dol Guldur, his journey is swift and untroubled. He likely travels with Aragorn, but the other members who would have formed the Fellowship are absent. None have yet begun their journeys. Gandalf arrives in Imladris before the end of May, unaware that simply carrying the ring is already beginning to weigh upon his thoughts in subtle, dangerous ways. Gandalf's arrival in Rivendell marks a brief moment of calm, yet the One Ring continues, working subtly on his thoughts. He has not used it, nor even drawn it from wherever he keeps it, but after 2 months in Imladris, its presence lingers in his mind like a quiet whisper. During this time, only a small group is present to hold council: Elrond, Glorfindel, Aragorn, Gandalf, and the elves of Rivendell. The others who would one day form the Fellowship have not yet begun their journeys. Gollum remains imprisoned until June 20th. Legolas has no urgent news to bring, and Boromir and Gimli are far from Imladris. When they gather to decide the ring's fate, Gandalf volunteers to take it south, a choice influenced partly by reason and partly by the faint pull the ring has on him. The council resolves, as in the true tale, that the ring must be destroyed. Their route becomes the question: should they cross the mountains toward Lorien or journey south through the Gap of Rohan? Gandalf advises following the southern road. Passing near Mirkwood and Dol Guldur would be far too dangerous now, for even without Sauron physically present, Camul the Easterling commands strong forces there. And at this point in the timeline, none in Rivendell suspect Saruman of treachery. Gandalf also sees no reason to seek Saruman immediately. In the original tale, only a message from Radagast sends him to Isengard. But since Gandalf now carries the One Ring himself, he has no need to wander the wild for news. It is even possible Radagast might arrive in Rivendell during this period, unknowingly relaying Saruman's invitation just as before. Thus, Gandalf's company, Gandalf, Aragorn, and a small group of elves, departs Rivendell at the beginning of August. Hoping to avoid spies, they choose the narrow paths beside the Misty Mountains, traveling quietly on foot. This decision causes them to miss Boromir, who is at that very time making his long, uncertain journey northward, in search of Rivendell, unaware they have already left on a mission that will change Middle-earth forever. Gandalf's company follows the same cautious route used in the original tale, slipping south along the narrow paths beside the Misty Mountains, to avoid the spies of Sauron. Even though this version of the group consists of more seasoned warriors, Gandalf, Aragorn, and several elves from Rivendell, they still choose secrecy over speed. Interestingly, this quieter path ensures they never cross paths with Boromir, who is, at that very moment, traveling north through the Gap of Rohan, unaware that the company he seeks has already departed. Boromir's journey is a difficult one. He leaves Minas Tirith on July 4th, riding swiftly until he reaches the Grey Flood, where he loses his horse in the crossing. Forced to continue on foot, he wanders for weeks along forgotten roads through Eriador, searching for Rivendell without knowing precisely where it lies. His trek mirrors the isolation and uncertainty that the land itself reflects during these troubled times. Meanwhile, Gandalf's company continues its steady progress southward. The trek from Rivendell to Isengard takes them about a month and a half, slightly longer than the Fellowship's later journey to Lorien, but reasonable given their careful approach and the rugged terrain. By mid-September, they arrive at the dark ring of Isengard, unaware of how drastically events are about to shift. Gandalf has always been wary of Saruman, and now, with the One Ring secretly in his possession, his caution deepens. When Saruman insists on speaking with him alone, wizard to wizard, as he frames it, the rest of the company waits outside Orthanc, trusting Gandalf but sensing tension. Inside the tower, Saruman reveals his ambition and his allegiance to Sauron, urging Gandalf to join him. Gandalf refuses, and Saruman attacks. In a desperate moment, still unclear in his own mind, Gandalf slips on the One Ring, power floods through him, and he fights back with overwhelming force. Saruman falls, slain in the very tower he sought to rule. The One Ring tightens its hold on Gandalf, and nothing in Middle-earth will remain the same. The echoes of the battle inside Orthanc bring Gandalf's company rushing into the tower. They find Gandalf standing amid the aftermath, the lifeless form of Saruman at his feet. Gandalf explains that Saruman revealed his allegiance to Sauron and attacked him, forcing Gandalf to defend himself. What he does not reveal is the ring's influence, or that he used its power. Though uneasy, Aragorn and the elves accept his explanation, believing Saruman's fall a tragic but necessary outcome. They decide to rest in Isengard, uncertain of their next move now that their presumed ally is gone. This shift in the timeline sets the stage for a remarkable coincidence. By September 3018, the Ringwraiths have returned to the Wold of Rohan, having failed to find the Shire or Gollum in the Vales of Anduin. Sauron, now aware of Saruman's treachery, sends a messenger ordering the Nine to abandon secrecy and ride for Isengard. Their arrival date, September 18th, aligns perfectly with Gandalf's company still resting there. When the Nazgul reach Isengard, they expect to find Saruman. Instead, they are confronted by Gandalf and his companions. A battle between elves, Aragorn, and all 9 Ringwraiths would be nearly impossible to win. But Gandalf's thoughts are no longer entirely his own. After dwelling for days on the surge of power he felt in Orthanc, he cannot resist the opportunity before him. In a moment, echoing the darkest possibilities, Gandalf slips the One Ring on once more. The Nazgul immediately recognize the new bearer. Bound to the ring, they bow to Gandalf's will. Aragorn and the elves recoil in horror, but Gandalf assures them this was a last resort. He claims the Ringwraiths cannot be destroyed while Sauron endures, yet with him commanding them, they can be turned against their master. Reluctantly, his companions accept this grim logic. Gandalf sends the Witch King back to Minas Morgul to prepare for war, and the rest of the Nazgul scatter at his command. The path ahead has darkened, and Middle-earth begins to shift under the weight of this new power. Gandalf's company leaves Isengard, now accompanied, at least in spirit, by the ominous presence of the Nazgul obeying their new master. Traveling southeast, they reach Edoras within a week. There they find Theoden, weakened and manipulated by Grima Wormtongue, much as in the familiar tale. Yet this version of Gandalf, bolstered by the ring's growing influence, acts decisively. With commanding authority and a surge of inner fire, he restores Theoden's strength and banishes Wormtongue from Rohan. The king rises renewed, though perhaps unsettled by the intensity in Gandalf's demeanor. In the books, Theoden is eager to strike against Saruman immediately, and in this altered timeline that same resolve is redirected. Gandalf informs him of Saruman's betrayal and death, as well as the rising threat from Sauron. Theoden responds quickly. The Rohirrim will ride from Minas Tirith, joining Gondor in a united stand against the Dark Lord. Aragorn and the elves remain to help prepare Rohan's forces, while Gandalf presses onward. He departs Edoras after about a week, traveling the roughly 350 miles south to Minas Tirith. Gandalf arrives in late October 3018, just as Boromir reaches Rivendell and confers with Elrond. Wanting to maintain secrecy regarding the ring, Elrond offers Boromir little more than the assurance that a company has gone south and that he may best serve his people by returning home. In Minas Tirith, Gandalf is brought before Denethor, steward of the city. He lays out his plan. Rohan will ride to Gondor, and together their armies will march to the Black Gate to challenge Sauron openly. But Denethor refuses. Reports have reached him of enemy forces withdrawing from Osgiliath, and he sees no reason for a reckless attack. Worse still, Denethor's use of the Palantir has fed his paranoia. He believes Gandalf seeks to rule in his place and elevate Aragorn, whom he views as an upstart heir of a broken line. Gandalf, now heavily influenced by the One Ring, no longer tolerates defiance. Combining the power of the Ring of Fire and the One Ring, he strikes Denethor down in a burst of flame. With the steward gone, Gandalf seizes command of Gondor and orders immediate preparation for war. With Denethor gone, and Gandalf now in command of Gondor, preparations for war begin at once. Messages are sent to Rohan, and the armies of the Rohirrim assemble swiftly under Theoden's renewed leadership. In the books, it takes the Rohirrim 5 days to ride from Dunharrow to Minas Tirith, but with less urgency and more coordination, they arrive roughly a week after gathering their full strength. Gandalf meets with Aragorn and Theoden to finalize their strategy. Together, their united forces will march east toward the Black Gate and challenge Sauron directly. It is a bold plan, far more aggressive than the one in the original tale, shaped now by Gandalf's increasing confidence and growing dependence on the power of the One Ring. The men of the West march in late November, a massive host moving across the plains beneath a gray winter sky. But unknown to them, Gandalf has already arranged an attack from another front. Acting on his commands, the forces of Minas Morgul, led by the Witch King and the other Nazgul, turn against Barad-dûr. The armies of Morgul descend upon Sauron's stronghold in the days before the men of the West reach the Black Gate. When Gandalf and his allies arrive, they find a battlefield littered with the wreckage of two clashing hosts. Countless orcs lie dead, their armies shattered. The air reeks of smoke and ash. Gandalf wastes no time. He orders his forces forward and commands the Nazgul themselves to destroy every remaining servant of Sauron. His intention is absolute annihilation. There will be no retreat, no survivors, no lingering threat. Then, in a moment echoing the darkest imaginings of Middle-earth, Gandalf calls upon Sauron to come forth. The Dark Lord, weakened by years of exertion and no longer in possession of the One Ring, descends from his tower. A confrontation of unimaginable power unfolds. With the Ring of Fire and the One Ring, Gandalf unleashes the full magnitude of his strength. The battle is devastating, but Gandalf emerges victorious, destroying the Dark Lord at last. In the chaos that follows, Aragorn rushes to Gandalf, offering help to take the ring to Mount Doom and finish the task. But Gandalf refuses, convinced now that Aragorn seeks the ring for himself. The One Ring twists his judgment, and Gandalf acts swiftly. Whether by the hand of a nearby ringwraith or by his own, Aragorn is slain. Gandalf mourns briefly, believing it necessary to preserve order. He commands the armies to return home, declaring that peace has been won. But under his rule, peace will come through strength, control, and absolute obedience, enforced by the Nine, now stationed throughout Middle-earth. With Sauron destroyed and the battlefield quieting, Gandalf surveys the ruin left behind. The armies, shaken, bloodied, and leaderless, await his command. Believing that Middle-earth now stands on the brink of a fragile peace, he orders the soldiers of Gondor and Rohan to return to their homelands. Word is to be spread far and wide. Sauron has fallen, and a new age of order is beginning. To most, Gandalf's pronouncement feels like hope. Yet beneath his calm exterior, the power of the One Ring coils tighter around his thoughts. In the following days, Gandalf contemplates the future of Middle-earth. With the Dark Lord gone and Aragorn dead, the world stands without a central unifying figure. Gandalf convinces himself that stability must be maintained at all costs. He begins forming plans to secure every realm, every border, and every people under a strict but benevolent rule. The ring feeds these ideas, whispering that only someone with true wisdom can guide Middle-earth into lasting peace. To enforce this newfound order, Gandalf turns again to the Nazgul. No longer servants of Sauron, they stand silent and obedient beneath his command. He resolves to place each of the 9 in a strategic location throughout Middle-earth, guarding, watching, and ensuring that rebellion or disorder never take root. Those who defy the new order, he decides, must be dealt with swiftly. Justice, in his mind, must be absolute. As Gandalf reflects on this path, one final thought emerges. A truth spoken long ago but now fully realized. The One Ring's corruption is not always loud or monstrous. Sometimes it masquerades as righteousness, as a desire to protect, as a belief that enforcing good justifies any means. Gandalf still believes he is acting for the benefit of all, yet the lines between protection and domination have blurred. Middle-earth enters an age of peace, but it is a peace enforced by power, by vigilance, and by fear. A new ruler now oversees the lands, a wizard of immense wisdom and noble intent, reshaped into something far more tragic by the very tool he once swore never to touch.